Okay, thank you. So next, I just want a little bit of a share out opportunity. What exciting positive things are happening with all of you? What successes are you seeing with students? Um, I got to spend a few days at Willow Creek in the last couple weeks, and it's just amazing how quickly you can connect to kids and start to feel um, relationships with kids and wanting to see them succeed. So that's my little shout out. Who else has a shout out?
I'm not in a building, but I'll break the silence. And I've just noticed lately as I'm walking my dog, the kids connected at the bus stop and how happy they are. And I think that says true to where they're going, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. Leah says you had a super fun Eagles Nest all school game last week. Can you tell us a little more?
So we did a capture the flag sort of game, and we divided it up by grade levels. So it was seventh grade, and then eighth grade, and ninth grade, and we just took a class period where kids got to go out and just be kids and be outside and run around and play a game, and it was just super fun to see kids out there engaging and just being kids.
Yeah, middle school is that great time when they're like working their way toward adults, but they're still wanting to be little too. And so it's fun to see middle schoolers do that kind of thing.
I'll do a quick shout out for Friedel. On the Friday before Halloween, my son was super excited that they got to wear costumes to school in middle school, and they got to play bingo and watch the Great Pumpkin Halloween. It was pretty awesome to have middle school kids that were all respectful and wore appropriate clothing and got to have a really fun time because they never got to do that in elementary school.
Thank you, Rachel. That's awesome.
So a shout out I'd like for Kellogg Middle School. My daughter has amazing assignments that she brings home about empowering history of women and underrepresented populations, which I think is really neat. She's excited about researching new things. And then my boys, they had a party this weekend for their birthday, and they walked to Hoover to the Gaga ball pit to have a very COVID-safe birthday party. And they had so many memories of being outside for recess, playing Gaga ball, which of course was missed, with the COVID world. So it was so fun to see their their excitement.
Thank you so much, Molly. That's awesome.
I have one that's similar. We could hardly get a word in edgewise last night at the dinner table because our kids were talking about everything they're doing in school right now. They're so excited about it. And then I just received a text before this meeting from my daughter that says, "Mom, we are learning about genes today. I'm freaking out." She's so excited about genetics. So thanks to all the teachers
I
out
thought
there.
you meant Jeans.
GENES.
The history of blue jeans is probably interesting too. I don't know. Got it.
I'll share. This is Lindy from Hoover Early Learning School, and Terry Nelson is also on the call from Mighty Oaks, two of the district's preschools. I'll share that our Channel 1 food backpack programs are up and running in the preschools. And I'm not sure how many Terry has now, but at Hoover ELS, we have almost 50 families who are participating.
That is amazing. Thank you, Lindy, for that shout out and that work. That is amazing. Okay, well, thank you all for sharing this morning. That it's exciting to hear what's happening in schools from parents and our staff. And I am continually uplifted by the work that everyone's doing and by the hard work that parents are doing at home as well. Just again, a little reminder about what family engagement is and some of what we do. You guys see this pyramid a lot. We work to do small, impactful opportunities kind of as we work our way up the pyramid so that we have lots of different supports for families and lots of different ways to connect. So these are just a few of what we do on a monthly, annually, sometimes weekly level in order to engage our families. Next up, I did see Denise join us. So Denise Moody is going to share a little bit about what's happening with the Rochester Public Schools strategic planning that's going on. Denise, are you ready to take it away?
I am ready. I am ready. Just had to add my picture in there, huh? Yes, Melissa asked me to come here today to just update you a little bit on our strategic action planning process to make sure everybody's aware. And because we kind of have an exciting phase coming up that I think many of you we would love your involvement in. So I am going to try to share my screen here. See how this goes. Okay, don't.
I just allowed you to share, Denise, so see if you can do that.
Well, I was allowed, and now it says you're not allowed. Oh, there we go. It came back. Share now. There we go. Share. Yay. It would be nice if all the different platforms did this in the same way, but it's not the way it works, right? Okay, so strategic action planning. So just what I want to talk about a little bit today is to give you an overview of kind of what the purpose is, talk a little bit about our action working groups, talk a little bit about the data collection, and then some next steps. Feel free to interrupt me or raise your hand or do whatever. I can be super informal as we go through this. So first of all, I just want to address kind of why strategic planning now, right? We're still in this post-pandemic phase. We have an interim superintendent. It feels like there's kind of a lot of things up in the air. So why are we kind of going through this process now? And I think that part of that is, while it is not a great time to be starting things that are new, to be able to be making big changes, it is an okay time to do some planning, right? We just went through this experience of being forced to kind of reimagine what school can look like, to look what different things we can do. And so I think people are in a place where, okay, innovation feels a little bit more familiar than maybe it has in the past. And how do we make sure that we don't just go back to what we had before? So in some ways right now is, I think, a good time to kind of pause, look at what we've been doing, look at what things we want to move towards in the future, and make sure that we have a good plan, hopefully, as we exit this pandemic. The other reason it makes sense right now is because the federal government has given us some funding through the different COVID relief funds, and it presents an opportunity to be able to use those funds to kind of kickstart some ideas that might come through the strategic action plan. So with those in mind, and with the approval of the school board in July, the school board approved going through this action planning process. And we call it action planning because we are not completely redoing our mission statement. We're not completely redoing our strategic plan. What we're doing is we're taking that and going, what are the action steps that we want to take over the next 3 years to put this into practice? And so we are really working to get feedback from our community and from our staff about kind of what could that look like. So we have 6 groups that are convening that we had an application process open for in September. And we had all of our groups meet for the first time in October. We have an intention, kind of our end date around this is we have an intention of being able to approve this strategic action plan by the end of the school year. So I think it will come to the board for the first time in the month of April with the goal of approving it in early June. We have 6 groups that are meeting. Improvement systems is really focused on the systems that we have in school around making things better. So these are things like professional development for teachers and staff, leadership development for our administration, our school improvement planning process, our processes around multi-tiered systems of support. So that group is really looking at those different systems that we have in place for around improvement in a school setting. Economic Engine is a group that's really focused on some of the economics of what makes school districts move forward and be able to have a healthy budget that supports the work that we do. So that group is looking around enrollment and about kind of recruitment. Do we have what families want? What would make Rochester Public Schools a more enticing offer? How can we augment some of maybe our enrollment or our funding to be able to be in a healthy place from a budgetary standpoint? The Outcomes and Measures group is focusing on student outcomes specifically in 4 different areas: academic, social emotional, rigorous course taking, and then postgraduate. So after students graduate, what are some of the outcomes that they have? And so really looking to prioritize and identify some key ones that we want to be tracking over time. The organizational culture group is really focusing on just that. How do we foster a sense of belonging for students and staff within our system? How do we create a culture within our organization that supports people being their best in our system? The Coherence Committee is a group that really is helping to make sure and looking at kind of the work of all of the groups to make sure that we come up with a plan that makes sense, that's kind of at the same level at the end of the process. We're still honestly figuring out kind of how that group works and how to use that group, but know that they're going to be really important as we get further along in the process. And then the group that is maybe of most interest to the people in this meeting today is our Family and Community Engagement group. And so that group is tasked with really looking at how do we effectively engage with our family and with community organizations in working together for students. And they are also tasked with specifically looking at district-wide option schools and at full-service community schools as initiatives and what kinds of support and funding might be associated with those moving forward. And how do we know that and what's the purpose of both of them, and when do we want to utilize them as strategies? Any questions on those before I keep moving forward here? Okay, so we did an application to be part of our action working groups, and I wanted to just kind of show you a little bit of the breakdown. We really were trying to capture, we got 175 applications in kind of a busy time of the school year. We sent it out the beginning of September, it closed the middle of September, and so we had a fantastic response. People are really, I think, we have a dedicated community that wants the best for our students and our community with our schools. And so you can see here some of the statistics about our action working group participants. I think we have about 70 people that are involved, including school board members, cabinet members, teachers, administrators, paras, off-schedule staff. Kind of from a staff perspective, we have families and parents and grandparents. We have some community leaders that are involved. We have some students that are involved. So we're really trying to get a wide variety of voices that were involved. So you'll see that 34% speak a language other than English. 20% of our participants are immigrants or the children of immigrants or the child. 14% have a sexual orientation other than straight. 31% identify as BIPOC or Hispanic. 58% have a significant relationship with a child who has a disability and or has received special ed or 504 services. And 22% of our action group participants were RPS students themselves. So those action working groups meet for 3 hours over a 6 times to really be able to provide feedback and help gather some voices that are in the community. So while our action working groups, only involve 70 people, we want them to really be some of the catalysts to help us get a broader voice and representation from our community. That was just one way of being involved. We are about to embark on kind of this next phase of being able to gather some community voice into this process through surveys and focus groups. So we are still working on those protocols and what we want feedback on specifically. But we are planning on doing a survey that is right now scheduled to go out on December 16th. And we will be surveying staff, students, and families around a variety of issues that the working groups have identified. We are working on a communication plan. I don't know if maybe there'd be a chance to give some feedback about kind of what would be the best way in order to get good participation, but we're really hoping for a wide participation and are going to allow for at least one open-ended question for people to be able to give us some feedback on kind of what they think is important. The other thing we are doing is focus groups. So we are planning on 15 focus groups, possibly 16 focus groups with about 12 participants each. They're going to be held in the month of December. I think our first one is scheduled for December 2nd. And invites, we're just working on the final language to get out the invites for those. We did make a commitment to send out invites first to those that applied for the action working group, but were not selected. So we're looking for different people to be in the focus groups than we're in the action working groups. And so we are sending that application out to them first, just to honor their commitment of doing that application and because they clearly have a passion kind of for this work. We are doing them both virtual and in person. Kind of depending on some of our student groups, we just feel would be best if they were done in person, that it might be difficult to do that both logistically and just relationally with some of our student groups and some of our parent groups. So we're prioritizing those to do in person, and then some of them will be virtual. We are offering an incentive for participation. So we are doing a $30 gift card for everybody that is willing to participate in a work group. And we'll also be doing transportation for those that need it and also technology assistance. So if there's other things that you're thinking about that we could do to help support participation in the focus groups, I'd love to have a conversation about that at the end too. So some of the groups that we are looking at doing focus groups for. So we are going to do a focus group with our principals and our Rochester Administrators Association, which is some central office administrators, members of REA, which is our teacher and certified staff union, with the Employees of Color Resource Group. And then we're doing another one with other employees groups, such as our off-schedule maintenance paraprofessionals. For student focus groups, we are going to do one with recent graduates, hopefully planning that over winter break when maybe some are home from other locations where they may be during the school year, and being able to get their perspective as they have exited RPS about some feedback as they reflect back. Our students that are English language learners, we want to hear their perspective with a focus probably on our high school students. One thing that many of our groups have talked about is around some of our discipline disparities that still exist, and really wanting to understand from a student perspective their understanding of those situations and kind of just have their perspective be part of this. So we are going to be doing a focus group with students that have had a discipline incident in the past to have their perspective on some of the functionings within our school. And then we're also looking at doing a focus group with ALC students that have experience with other RPS students. So one of the economic engine group, and I think it came up in a couple of groups, are really interested in some of the student perspectives about at some of our larger high schools or at other high schools that they chose ALC as an option. For family focus groups, we are doing one for our African American families. We are also doing one for non-RPS students. So again, this is coming out of the Economic Engine Group, wanting to understand better why people make choices outside of Rochester Public Schools and to get some data collected about why families are making that choice. We are doing a Spanish and Somali speaking focus group, and we are doing that in their native language. So we will have a native language facilitator, and we will translate that back to English afterwards, so those participants can feel more comfortable communicating in their preferred language. And then we'll have some focus groups that are open to all families. Any questions on those focus groups? Okay. So how could this group possibly be involved? So we would love you to participate. So whether that is with the survey or in a focus group, we would love to have you have your voice reflected in this and have you participate in those focus groups and in that survey. And also encouraging others to be involved. So if there are families that you work with or families that you're involved with other ways, encouraging them to be involved, talking about it, talking about the importance of this and how we really want to hear their voice is another way to empower them and to be able to make change moving forward. The other, I'll come back to your question, okay, Julie? The other thing is around supporting participation. I'm actually getting van trained, which I never have needed to. So I think we will be trying to, there's going to be a little bit of transporting students to get them all in one location for sure. There could be some transportation of families that are involved. So that's one idea. We may need some families that need some assistance with technology. So we want to, we have some funding available and we want to support families and students being involved in any way. I think we could talk about childcare if that was a need. Yes, Melissa. So Julie, let me see your question. I got to figure out how to open the chat. Or could somebody read? Oh, no, I found it. Julie asked, will any of the student groups draw out info about GATE, P-TECH, AP pathways, and courses? I think we certainly could. That would probably be information that would be really helpful for that outcomes and measures group. And so, like I said, we have not finalized nor even yet drafted the survey questions. So I will take note of that. I think it would be really helpful, both from probably outcomes and measures, talking about some of that rigorous course taking and some of those postgraduate outcomes, as well as maybe the economic engine around enrollment options. I think those are sometimes really enticing opportunities for families and students. So I will take note of that, Julie. Thank you.
Denise, would you be willing to come back when like a survey or focus groups are kind of ready to do a reach out so that this group could be involved in, I know we have some parents listening in as well that might like to participate, or at least send me the information so I can share here as well.
Yeah, our timeline is so tight, right? We're starting, focus groups will happen in December. So I could certainly come back to, but it would be your next meeting. Or if you, so, but I wonder if email might be a better and more timely way to get that communication out. So absolutely, I will communicate when those are. I might have some specific asks as we see. We kind of have a multi-level kind of communication plan, starting with an email, but we know that many of these focus groups or in families might appreciate an individual reach out. So being able to connect with them and making sure that we make it as seamless as possible to get families signed up and understand what we're doing and what the process is. And a lot of times email is not the way to do that. So I think it would be really helpful if this group was willing to help with some personal connections and personal communication about that.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I appreciate the time to share, and I'm excited about the opportunity to maybe being able to share back some of the results of those focus groups and surveys that we get back. I think that might be really interesting for this group to take a look at as well.
Thank you so much, Denise. That's helpful. Any final questions before Denise is moving on to our next meeting? C2C Career, Deneen Graham wrote in the chat, Cradle to Career Family Advisory Council would be interested in participating in some way.
Thanks, Deneen.
Yeah, it looks like Molly has a raised hand. Go ahead.
Thank you. I have to master those raised hand. I had a question. Okay, so this group, particularly family engagement, I started coming back in, I think, 2015-ish, you know, been attending for quite some time. How is this advertised? Or what is the purpose of this particular group? Is it truly, I mean, to allow other families to know about this? I don't know how this group particularly is connecting to really engage families and have them come participate.
Sure. That's probably more a question for me than Denise, and I'm happy to answer that. This meeting is just one small piece of what we do, what I would say we do, Molly. And we, for a while, I was advertising on Facebook, but then we had some issues with the people who were joining not joining appropriately, and we had to back our advertisement down just a little because the interruptions made the meetings, we were unable to function in that way. So in the past, we had sent out Facebook invites and that sort of thing. Right now, we're communicating via email and asking for people to share the meetings out. This specific meeting has always been part of our Title I planning. So it was really focused around our Title I elementary schools, our high poverty schools. So we focused some of our attention on bringing families from those specific schools, which were Franklin Gage, Riverside, Elton Hills, Sunset, and Longfellow. And it has since evolved from there. And so we look at this meeting as just one small piece of the work we do. It's one way to communicate to this group. But I also make this similar presentation in our community resource, I forget what the acronym, CMRC meeting. We bring this to Q&As in the evenings for our different language speaking families. You know, so there are lots and lots of different ways we connect. This one, we clearly have staff who join. We have parents who join. Our equity specialists are here. So this is just one small way we impact what we do in terms of reach out to families, if that makes sense. So Peter Lorenz, Denise is asking you, when will the survey be available for families and how do families apply for focus groups? Sorry, Anita.
Peter, right now we are planning on the survey going out on December 16th is our target date for that. And it would be sent out to families via email based on the information that they have in Skyward. We will also do some social media messaging, and we're also probably going to be asking schools to do some messaging around that. Regarding the families applying for the focus groups, I think that will probably go also out first in email. We have not finalized our communication strategy we are first working on the staff ones, which are a little bit more simple. The family ones, we may be able to do that through schools, especially when we're looking at our Somali speaking and our Spanish speaking. We may need schools to help us identify who some of those are because we don't have a good way of being able to pull that information possibly. So I don't know if I have a complete answer, but the how is there will be a sign up sheet. They will sign up for a spot and then we will communicate back with them. But we realize that some families we want to be able to make that available to all families. And so really thinking about language and how do we make some personal reach outs in order to be able to do that. It won't be an application per se. It will just be a sign up sheet. Okay, well, thank you everybody for the time on your agenda today. Thank you for all the work that you do. And I hope to connect with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Denise. Next up, we have Jasmine with us. So Jasmine Bissell from Rochester Phoenix Academy. Last meeting, we had some questions about what was Phoenix and how it fit into the rest of the work that our schools do, our schools across the district. And so I'm hoping, Jasmine, you'll turn on your camera and join us.
Yeah, hello. I also need to share my screen if I'm able to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have control now?
Okay. Are we seeing everything? Perfect.
Yep. Looks great.
All right. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about Phoenix because I think that we get pretty much consistently two reactions. If someone hears Phoenix Academy, you either get the ugh, or you get the, oh, what is that? And so I'm very excited to expand a little bit more about what we do, and especially since we just became a community school, kind of where we plan to go. So again, yep, I'm Jasmine, social worker, and I guess also educator. I don't know, it's a little bit of everything. It's an interesting position. So here at Phoenix. And so last year when I was finishing my bachelor's in social work, I had a capstone project, which I was lucky enough to be able to intern at Phoenix while I worked as a paraprofessional with one of our social workers here. And we were kind of talking about the possibility of Phoenix becoming a community school. So I got very interested in that idea, and I kind of wanted to explore what that might look like. So I'm going to play this video that I made last year and try not to cringe at the sound of my own voice. If you're unable to hear it, just someone please chime in. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that you can hear it. So.
I think we need the volume up, Jasmine.
Okay. I don't know how to do that. How do I? Can you hear it at all? You can't hear it at all.
We can hear it just barely. I think. Does anyone know, is it the speaker volume?
I know there's like a certain way you have to do it when you're sharing out. So let me try again. Okay. We're going to try this again. Volume's all the way up. Okay.
This is Phoenix Academy, a setting for school in Rochester, Minnesota, where I've had the opportunity to work as a paraprofessional since 2019, and I'm wrapping up my time as an intern for the spring 2021 semester. Our student population ranges from kindergarten all the way through age 21, and every student we serve either has a diagnosed emotional, behavioral, or developmental disorder. Of the 79 students who attend Phoenix Academy, almost 80% are eligible for free lunch. But what you don't see from the numbers and demographics are the relationships that are formed and strengthened here every day between students, families, and staff. We have a unique program that allows for smaller student to staff ratios, which creates a more intimate classroom environment for students to learn and feel supported. During the transition to distance learning and throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, We've seen schools rise to the occasion to support students in ways that surpassed anyone's expectations. From providing free meals to any child, regardless of enrollment status, to ensuring every student had access to the technology they needed to participate in distance learning, it has become increasingly more evident that schools serve a much larger role in supporting families and communities than simply academics. You know, the old adage, it truly takes a village. But the truth is, going above and beyond to meet the needs of our students is embedded in the Phoenix culture. And transitioning Phoenix Academy to a community school would allow us to better serve our population and go one step further, bringing the village to the child. A community school partners with local providers to create a hub of resources and services for students to access from one central location. Some examples may include health and social services, as well as providing access to a resource room with food, clothing, or hygiene supplies. Research indicates a positive correlation between healthy childhood development and comprehensive programs that nurture learning and development. By removing barriers to services, community schools are able to create stronger relationships with families and elicit higher levels of participation and engagement. The guiding principles behind community schools, embracing diversity, striving towards equity, fostering strong partnerships, building on the community's strengths, and advocating for students' needs and local decision making aligns directly with Phoenix's mission to create an inclusive and safe environment for students to learn and work on their goals. And a recent coalition study shows that community schools work. Compared to traditional schools, community schools show better attendance, improved learning and behavior in the classroom, more parent and family involvement, and an overall increase in community trust and engagement. But the biggest impact can't be measured or defined by quantifiable data. I was able to speak with 2 social workers from a community school in Rochester Public Schools to hear their perspectives. Overwhelmingly, the biggest impact they saw after making the switch to a community school was that a culture of helping was created. Students began to feel more comfortable expressing a need they had, and the community was able to get involved and provide resources and services that were requested. This culture of helping supports one of the tenets of the graduate profile, producing students who are ethical contributors to their community. By showing students that they are valued and will be cared for, we are hopefully preparing them for a life of giving back and paying it forward. When I walk through the halls of Phoenix Academy, I see what is a collaborative team of caring staff, meaningful student-staff relationships that contribute to student success, and a place where students feel accepted and understood. But I also see what could be a stronger network with community support, opportunities for students to have more resources at their fingertips, and the small seed of compassion being planted, slowly blooming into a culture of giving and giving back. This is Phoenix Academy, a setting.
Okay, so I love, my favorite part is Mr. Scripture slam dunking the ball. I always get a good chuckle out of that. But hopefully, I mean, that's not only a little tour of our building here, but kind of just a little inside perspective. So this year, just kind of numbers wise, I guess, stats, we have 8 elementary students. We have 17 students in our SUN program, which this is my 3rd year at Phoenix, and I've seen this program explode. So SUN is our students with unique needs. It's a lot of mostly like ASD, autism spectrum, but just, I don't know, it's really cool to see it grow. We went from having 1 classroom to 4 now. We have 44 secondary students. Some of them, most of them are in person. Some of them we're working with, transitioning to other mainstream schools. So there's a lot going on there. And then I don't have all the real data in my Skyward, so I couldn't look it up. But we do also in our building have Rochester Adult Independent Learning. So this is for students with developmental or other delays, but they're adult students who are now learning how to do independent life skill things. So they learn everything from how to cook basic dishes. A lot of them do internships and go to work as a part of their day at school, and they're 18 to 21, those students. Next year, they will be moving to the Friedel building, so we'll be sad to see them go. But low-key a little excited because that's more space for our community school to grow. So it'll be interesting to see what we can do with that space in the coming years. But overall at Phoenix, there's just a wide array of needs, whether they be academic, emotional, mental health. This year, coming back from the disruption of learning from the pandemic and everything, just a big focus on the social emotional learning and supporting mental health, as well as coping skills and teaching those sorts of things. So on a larger, just at the district level, we do have 5 community schools. Phoenix is the 5th, and there are 2 other potential ones who hopefully we'll get to add to the roster. But we have our 2 elementary sites, Riverside and Gage, and then John Marshall and ALC. And of course, Phoenix, we're like K through 12, so we're just right in the middle. But we all do similar things as far as aligning with the 4 pillars of community schools. So they all have these 4 things in common. And those are, first, integrated student supports, then expanded learning times and opportunities, family and community engagement, are here, and collaborative leadership and practices. So this is a diagram that I see a lot and we use a lot because I think it does a good job of kind of capturing what the 4 pillars could look like. So with your integrated supports, that could look like a health clinic or therapist counseling at the school site, or things like food being distributed to families. As far as the expanded and enriched learning opportunities, I mean, that could be partners coming in and teaching a class about, I don't know, someone from Mayo coming in and teaching the kids about what it means to be a phlebotomist. What is that word? I don't know. Or we actually just got potentially Sargents was talking about partnering with us here at Phoenix to create a community garden, which is, if you've ever seen Phoenix, the outside of the building is not much to look at. I think when I was coming for my interview, I drove past it 3 times trying to find it. But anyways, and then family engagement, that can look like community classes or just getting the parents more involved in conversations. And then that collaborative leadership, just bringing those voices to the table, kind of like what Denise was talking about. And each site has its own leadership team that makes decisions together, bringing in staff, family, student voices. But I think one thing to point out that's really cool is that even if your school isn't a community school, there's probably something in here where you're like, hey, my school does that. So I think it's kind of cool that we take some of those elements and it already just works so well with just a public school. But what the community school model does is it really takes these 4 pillars and uses it as a strategy to make the bigger difference. And as I mentioned, there's 5 community schools, but I can guarantee that when you walk in, they all look different and operate different because you have to kind of figure out, what does my school need? What do my students need? What do my families need? How are we gonna benefit them the best? So like I mentioned, Phoenix just became a community school this year. So we're 2-3 months kind of in, and just kind of from where we're at, step 1 was to hire a full-time community school site facilitator. Hi, yes, that is me. From there, I've been really focusing on education and awareness, just kind of teaching our staff and our students that, yeah, we are a community school. So I had the opportunity to go present to pretty much every class. Just kind of went in and did a quick little lesson and just kind of getting the word out. Collaboration, I learn a lot from the other site facilitators. I've already learned a lot from them, but also just collaborating with local partners. I mean, there's already a lot of staff are just very excited and want to know how they can help and get involved. So just kind of working on that. Sort of the next pieces are sustainability. So we want to be able to keep doing what we're doing. We did apply for an NDE grant earlier, was that last month? So we should be hearing back on that soon. And then from there, the way that you kind of figure out, okay, so there's no one size fits all. Well, how do you figure out what size you need? And that's where the needs assessment comes in. I've also heard it referred to as a needs and assets assessment, which I really like, because you're not only going in and saying, okay, where are the gaps? What, other services are needed, but you're also going in and you're figuring out who knows what, who's connected to who, what skill set can we build on that we already have, whether it be parents or staff or local businesses. So the needs assessment process it's basically a huge research project from what I understand. You kind of take the data that you already have and you look at that, and your demographic data and you look at that, but then you bring other voices to the table. So a lot of, it could be focus groups, it could be surveys and things like that to gather information. It could be going out and meeting with local partners, potential local partners. So I'm looking forward to diving into all of that later on in this school year. And then from there, as I mentioned before, each site does have a leadership team. So we'll be looking to kind of form that leadership team here at Phoenix, bringing in staff who are passionate about this work. Students, I think, could definitely bring an interesting voice to the table, and their families, as well as other stakeholders or partners. And then from there, just building and growing. Like I mentioned, you should have more space to create something like a resource room where we can meet with our stakeholders and things like that, or just a kid can come in, grab a snack or anything kind of. So I came across this quote. I like quotes. I think they sum things up really nicely. So it's kind of where I feel like we're at. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. So with us being a new community school site, we're kind of starting to crawl, and I feel like walk soon. So I'm excited to see how high we can fly. Thank you very much for letting me educate you a little bit about Phoenix, and I'd like to open it up to any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was amazing. And it was such a good glimpse. I too love the dunking photography of Mr. Scripture. And we should get like one of those frames frozen and then like framed or something for him. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Going back to some of our family engagement, we're going to talk briefly about updates, information, and resources we have currently in the district. In terms of mental health supports and resources, I just wanted to mention again the opportunity for virtual consultations that are available to every family. These are free, and this will go out again via this recording, in our minutes, and in the slides. So if you have any questions about how to access this, we hopefully are sending it to you in a few different ways, so that you can reach out to families who might need some mental health supports. I wanted to touch base about the family engagement film screenings that happened. We did have Angst show, and it was awesome. We had about 60 families who joined the screening of the film Angst. I watched it again for the second time, and it was amazing and wonderful. January 26th, they will be showing the film Like. I would encourage you to watch this with your kids. They're all really helpful and meaningful films. COVID-19 dashboard. Again, this is where we were at yesterday. We've had 609, I think, positive cases throughout the district, 2,526 quarantine. Vaccines are now available for children 5 and over, which is really encouraging, and hopefully then we'll start to see some of those numbers go down as more kids can get access to the vaccination. We are still hosting RPS after school meals at a few different locations. So that if you know families or students who are in need, here are some resources for after school lunch or dinner, dinner. Additionally, another food resource that is available right now is the Ruby's Pop-Up Pantry. And it's a $20 per share donation, but then you get groceries for your family. It's this is on Peach Jar, so, and this flyer will go out with the minutes as well. So Saturday from 9 to 10:30 at Holy Cross Lutheran Church will be the so it's this Saturday and December 11th will be the Ruby's pop-up pantry opportunity. There is also a letter going out to families, to all parents and students, grade 2 and 4, about COGAT testing. This is specifically to an opportunity for families to get into GATE programming, so gifted and talented programming through the district. So watch out for the opportunity for your kiddos to be assessed for the COGAT. And they will be happening between the 1st of November, so some of it is underway, and then December 3rd. Feel free to email me if you have questions about COGAT testing, and I'll connect you probably with Monica Bowler, who is our Director of Gifted and Talented Resources in Rochester Public Schools. There is a Poetry Out Loud opportunity for kids. This is also on Peach Jar. As someone who has her master's in fine arts and creative writing, I am a big fan of Poetry Out Loud. It offers kids the opportunities to write their own poetry. They get an opportunity to rehearse and then do some verbal competition with their poetry. And if you've not seen a competition like this, I would encourage you to go. It's pretty cool. The STEM Fair is also coming up. So this again is on Peach Jar. So if you have an interest in your child participating in the Rochester Regional STEM Fair, now is the time. Some schools, parents, you should know, some schools and sciences in the past at high school have required a participation in the STEM Fair. I don't know if that's still a thing. My son had to do it, and I'm pretty sure it was the most painful thing he had to experience in all his years. It was great. He just did not want to do it. Junior Kicks. So this is pre-K to 8th grade. Get an opportunity to work with the Century Dance team and raise some money for a good cause. So this clinic is happening this Saturday. If you have someone up to 8th grade in your family and they want to know a little bit more about competitive dance, this is an opportunity for them to learn and get out there and connect with the older kids, which we know for younger kids, that's the coolest thing in the world. So this flyer will go out as well. And again, it's kind of short notice happening this Saturday, but it's on Peach Jar too, if you want to check it out on our Peach Jar page. Our guidance counselors have asked me to reach out and let all of you know that honors courses are open to all high school students. And so if you have a middle schooler, I would encourage you to recommend them trying at least one honors course in high school. We know that kids who kind of reach up tend to pull up and do better. So encourage even students who might be struggling. Honors would be a great experience. And if you have any questions about the honors courses that are run through the high schools, we have a guidance council office at each high school, and talk to any of the guidance counselors and they can help you navigate honors. Additionally, all our middle schools are now offering after school opportunities. These, the November programs are on Peachstar as well, so you can register currently through Community Ed for after school programming at middle school. We are looking for donations in winter outerwear. We continue to partner with programs like the Salvation Army and Cradle to Career to figure out ways to make sure students have what they need in terms of winter coats. But if you are a family who has some gently used items, we are taking them at many of our different sites. Julie, you want to go ahead and talk a little bit more about this one?
Sure. The only thing I'll say is that, to quote the Game of Thrones, winter is coming. Winter is always coming. And Melissa and I have found that we have been reactive to this every year. And so moving forward, we're putting together a group of people to proactively address winter coming on an annual basis and make sure that we are all working as a community to support our students with winter outerwear needs. So if you would like to be part of this work group, we are forming and making a better plan for the future so that we're not consistently reacting to this issue. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Oh, there we go. I also wanted to do a shout out. We don't do enough of this, but Alexis Zaccarillo, from our art teacher from the Alternative Learning Center, was selected as Minnesota Art Educator of the Year, which is pretty amazing. I have had the chance to see Miss Zaccarillo do work with the kids personally at the Alternative Learning Center, and she is amazing. So if you get a chance and if you have an opportunity to drop a note to Alexis, tell her great job. She herself is an amazing artist, and it's great that we get a chance to connect to her talents and that our kids get a chance to work with her. I think that's about all the information I have. I want to open it up to questions that people might have about all the information you received. I know that was a lot and I went through it quickly. I'm happy to go back to any slides if you have questions. And your exit ticket today will be the best job you've ever had. And again, remember, we have a school board person present. So if you want to say this one, now is the time to say it's the one you currently have. Otherwise, I'm here for questions. Thank you all for coming. We'll forward these notes. Julie says, being Olivia and Will's mom. Any kids that I've ever worked with. Jasmine says, community site facilitator. Thank you all for joining. I'll hang on for questions, and I'm gonna, Jen, if you could stop the recording, that'd be great.